Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It is now mid-February and I'm finally getting around to starting the seeds for the 2022 hot pepper series. I did a ton of work in the yard yesterday and today in preparation for bringing the seeds out here. It's still a bit early, so we'll have a while to go before you see plants in these raised beds, but it's gonna happen very soon, so I'm very excited. So we're gonna go inside and start some seeds, and then I'll show you the process, and also we're gonna do a few Q&A. That way it can help you guys start this year fresh. And before we go in, I want to give a special shout out to my buddy Jesse from Reddit or the Discord group. Jesse sent me an amazing gift this year, a shirt that is just so nice, guys. So I'm going to show it off to you guys first before we go inside and start on the seeds. Okay, Jesse, this one is for you. Thank you so much for the t-shirt. I really like this design. Okay, we are going to start some seeds right now, and here are the things that I'm going to use this year. These are just little containers that you can get on Amazon, and I have 10 by 20 trays that will catch the water. These are the ones without holes, and the soil I'm going to use is the Pro Mix. These are great because I use them in previous seasons, and because I'm putting these inside, I don't want fungus gnats, and I find that these soil works the best to sort of like prevent fungus gnats. Okay, it's not 100%, but these are the ones that I know for sure that contain the lowest chances of getting fungus gnats in your tent. Okay, so we are going to put our seeds in here. Okay, so I added my soil right here. You don't have to add it all the way to the top. And we are going to get our seeds. These are my stargazer. I love these things. This past season, the stargazer produced so much, and we have such good peppers to use. So I'm going to grow these guys again. And you always want to put a bunch so that you guarantee something will sprout. Okay, be careful when you put your hands like this because it can get very spicy. So just keep that in mind, and select the good nice yellow seeds. Anything that has black in there in the center, don't get those because they're probably bad seeds. So I'll put probably like 5 seeds. Okay, so now you can use your finger, or you can use a spoon or any utensil you have. Just push it down like half an inch, and then give it a little bit more water, and that is it. So we're going to put it here, and then I'm gonna do a few more, and then I'm gonna have this sitting in my tent, so I'll show you that soon. Alright guys, here's what we have so far. I have the lemon starburst, the peach star kissed, and the scarlet rose. Then I got a bunch of other stuff back there that I planted this season that turned out really well, so I'll show you that in the future once they sprouted. And then I planted some sweet peas with my kids because they wanted to plant some flowers. And then I have some desert rose for my buddy Aaron. I've never planted these before. My parents have. They have a huge tree of this, and they bloom beautifully. So Aaron sent me these here. I've never seen the seeds before. I only seen flowers. So they're very unique. Look at that, guys. See, they're kind of like really long. I'm not sure if each of those is a seed, but I'm gonna put all 4 in here and see what comes out of that. And then this year I'm also gonna plant, of course, again, Armenian cucumbers. I love these things. These are just amazing. So there's more coming up, so I'll update you guys as we go along, but I have a few more pepper plants that I will be adding soon. Okay, I added a few more, so here is what we have so far. I'll put a list in the description of all the varieties I'm growing this year. So everything is going to be sprouting in maybe 7 to 10 days, maybe even more because my garage is a little cold right now. But that is the reason for the dome. I think the ones with the domes are going to sprout much faster than the rest because it's going to be a lot warmer in there. So just in case you guys are curious, the light I'm using is the Spider Farmer SF4000. That is usually the question that people always ask. So yeah, everything is gonna be looking great soon. So I'll come back and show you an update once they sprouted. Okay, we are gonna get into the questions. And this video may be a little long, so I'm going to list the timeline below in the description so you guys can just go there and click to the questions that you're interested in. That way you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, so question number 1. How early can you start your plant? Is it a good idea to start too early? Starting too early could be a setback, because what happens is if you start too early and you don't have room or space to transplant the plant into larger containers, it becomes root bounded and it's not going to grow very well. So pepper plants, they grow very fast as soon as they take off. And when that happens, the roots are going to circle around in the little cup. And if you don't transplant into a larger container, it's going to keep getting wounded in there, and then it becomes root bound, and then it will stop growing and it will start to put out flowers. And when it put out flowers, the plant becomes stunted. And so if you have the space, you can start early and then transplant the plant into a larger container as it gets larger and larger. And that would give you a really large plant before you take it outside. But if you don't have room, and you plan to keep the peppers in the small containers, it could be a little setback if you start too early. So I think the best to do is start it around 4 to 6 weeks in advance, and that will give you a boost when you take the plants outside. But yeah, so if you have space, as early as you like. If you don't have space, just plant it and start it between 6 weeks is great, and then move it outside. That way the plant can expand the roots, get adjusted, and grow into the space that they're put into, and they would grow well. Okay, so the next question, there's a lot of topic about this. Some are for it, some are against it. It's is topping pepper plants a good idea? I guess that could be because I do it so often. It is a good idea, but it's also a bad idea. So a bad idea is cutting your plants would really set it back, because it has to start over. It has to start to regrow and basically just regrowing again. So it's going to take a few months for it to get back to the way it was, and then it will start to produce fruits and all that stuff. A good idea to top pepper plants most of the time is if you grow in hydroponic, like I do all the time. Or if you run out of space, like me, example, all the time. I start my plants and it gets too big and I ran out of room, so I had to try to control it by trimming it and trimming it and trimming it and keeping it small. Or you just want to keep it small by growing in mini systems like the video that I did recently. So in those sense, topping and trimming is a good idea. And also because your plant is grown in hydroponic, there's always food available, so the plant doesn't have to compete. The plant doesn't have to go fight other plants or other things around it to get the nutrients it needs to grow. So it's always going to grow back, and it's going to grow back fast. And topping it also keep it small and compact, manageable. So in that sense, it's a good idea. But if you're growing outside, it may not be such a good idea, because you top it, you set it back. Not only that, but if your season is short, you're not going to get fruit before the season ended, and then you kind of wasted your time because the pepper, took too long to come back to where it was and produce again. So as far as does topping produce more peppers, like produce higher yield, I think there's a bunch of articles and experiments that have been done on this before, and they stated that it does not produce more. So yeah, so it's good and bad depending on what you're doing. So if you're growing outside, don't top your plants unless there's circumstances that you need to top it. But if you're growing in hydroponic, you can top whenever you want, guys. I mean, I top my pepper 4, 5, 6 times and it grows right back. And it does produce a ton too. Okay, so I hope that answered the question. Number 3, when do you remove the plastic dome from the cup? So I guess this is, when I start seeds in the cup, I put the dome on top because usually it's very cold in my garage. And the dome kind of help keep the heat in there, but also keep moisture from escaping. That way you don't have to water often, and also it keeps the seeds warm. So when you do that, when you see that the seeds have sprouted already, you can remove the dome. But you can also keep the dome on if your tent is very cold. So keeping the dome on top, it does help regulate the heat in there, so that the plants can kind of grow well until you have warmer temperature. But if your temperature is already warm inside your tent, as soon as they sprout, remove it. Because what happens is if you keep the dome on top, there's always going to be condensation that builds up on the inside, and it blocks lights from getting into onto your plant. So it does reduces the chance of getting enough light, and it may stretch if you keep it on for too long. Another thing is, if you keep it on for too long, the leaves are going to be very sensitive inside the dome, and so when you remove it, all of a sudden it's going to shrivel. That's usually when the plants get already kind of big and you're still keeping it in the dome. So yeah, I would recommend as soon as all your seedlings have sprouted, just remove it. Okay, so how early can I start feeding my plants? Okay, that's a good question. Seedlings don't need a lot, so it depends on the type of soil you use. Some soil already has nutrients or fertilizer in there, so for those you may not even need to fertilize at all before you transplant. Because they don't use that much. But if you use like seed starting mix, they don't have much nutrients in there. And so once the plants form its true leaves, you can give it a little bit of fertilizer. True leaves meaning the actual leaves, the first sets of leaves begin to grow. There's 2 sets. It starts with the codline. Codline is the first 2 sets of leaves that open. And then the true leaves are the ones that form after that. So when the true leaves form, you can give it, very small amount of nutrients if you're using seed starting mix. And that would help, boost the plant a little bit. Okay, number 5, when should I start splitting the seedlings? So I guess this means because, usually when we start seeds, we always put, a bunch of seeds because we just want to make sure that something sprouted. And so in that case, as soon as the seeds sprouted, remove them or put them in their own container. The reason for that is when they first sprouted, they have straight root, one strand of straight root, and you dig it up, it's very easy to remove and take apart and put into its own container without too much disturbance and damages. But if you wait too long, once they start to grow and get bigger, then the roots start to wrap around each other. And now it's going to be very difficult to remove without damaging the root. The roots are the most important thing at that stage because that's what helps the plants stay healthy, take up nutrients, and grow well. So if you damage the root, it could cause the plant setback. So remove it as soon as possible. Don't wait until they grow like this big and remove them, because it's going to be very difficult without damaging. But it can be done with the water spray method. But still, I do not recommend that. I recommend remove it as soon as they sprout it. I mean, divide them. Again, these questions are not in any specific order. I just wrote them down. Number 6, can I feed my soil plants, hydroponic nutrients? Yes, you can. I do that all the time. But don't do it too often, because, hydroponic nutrients could cause buildup in the soil, like calcium buildup and all that stuff. So every once in a while you can feed it, but don't do it like all the time, because it causes issues in the soil. Let's see. Number 7, what type of soil is best for starting seedlings? The best soil is always the seed starting mix. They're specifically formulated for starting seeds. So I would do that. If you are new to gardening, buy some seed starting mix, and those are the best to start seedlings. If you're a more advanced, most of the advanced people usually mix their own soil. Okay, number 8. What is the best temperature for starting seeds? Well, pepper plants are tropical plants, so they do like warm temperatures. So anything between 75 and 85 degrees are like perfect temperature for pepper plants. So those are usually the best temperature to start seeds. But you can still start seeds earlier than that. 65 degrees to 75 degrees. Just keep it warm, put a dome on top, and it will sprout. So yeah, ideal temperature 75 degrees to 85 degrees, even a little bit higher is fine. They will sprout very fast. Okay, so number 9, do I have to go through the hardening off process prior to transplanting? Yes, this is one mistake that people make very often. So usually if you start your seedlings inside and you kept them inside for a few months, they are adjusted to the inside condition where it's like toned down and calm. So when you take them outside where the sun begins to beat on them immediately, it's gonna burn them like within 20 minutes. Your leaves are gonna shrivel, it's gonna droop, it's gonna look like it's gonna die. And that is because it has not been adjusted to the different conditions, harsher condition, the sun. So you're gonna have to go through the hardening off process. So what that means is you take your plants outside, leave it in the conditions outside for like 15 minutes, monitor, and then bring it back inside in the shade, and then do it again the next day. And I would recommend doing it for like up to a week before you completely put it outside. For me, this is my personal things, I never do the hardening off process. Actually, no, wait, let me take that back. I do sometimes, but most of the times I don't. It's because I timed my season. So I start my seeds inside, and then I bring it outside before the condition is too harsh. So like mid-March in Texas is usually the good times. I mean, we're very unstable lately, but usually mid-March to late March, the temperature is still very cool. The sun is out there, but it's not too hot that it would kill the plant. So that's when I transplant it. I put it outside. I don't go through the hardening off process and all that stuff, and they do just fine. You see a little bit burn here and there, but the plants will live and they will be fine. So you can time the temperature where you are and move it outside when the temperature gets around like 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Even with the full sun, it'd still be fine. But if you move it outside, all of a sudden it's like 75 to 85 degrees with the sun beating down on it. Yeah, it's gonna burn, especially for the super hots when those big plump leaves, they burn so fast. They're very, very sensitive. So yes, hardening off is recommended, and it's a good thing to do. Okay, number 10. Should I pull off flowers? My plants are too small. And okay, yes, this is a good question actually. A lot of the times, new growers you know, when you start seeing flowers and fruit, even fruit, you get so excited. Even when the plant is this small, you see a fruit, you get so excited. So you don't want to pull it off because you feel so bad because you want to keep the fruit. But you need to pull those off. Because what happens is those fruit will probably be the only fruit that would be on the plant, because the earlier fruit that's set, the plant usually will focus all of the energy in trying to keep those fruit and you know, make it so that, you know, it will ripen up and you get a fruit and all that stuff, so the plants will have seed. So then what happens is the newer flowers will not form, and also it will stunt the growth of your plant. When you see a fruit, most of the time your plant is going to remain that small. So that is the reason why you should pull those off. You see many growers that grow peppers for years, they always do that. They pull all of the flowers off. But before the plant is big enough, they just yank them all off. So yes, you need to pull those off. And if you don't, the plant is going to remain small and it will stay small, and you're only going to get like 1 or 2 fruits. So yes, pull those early fruits off. Even pull those early flowers off too. Okay, number 11. I don't have grow lights. Can I start my seeds by a bright window? Yes, you can. The problem is it depends on how bright the window is. Pepper plants need direct sun. And what that means is you need direct sun on the plants for at least 5 to 6 hours a day when you're starting them out. And if you don't, you will notice that the nodes between, you know, they have leaves, and then next sets of leaf and next sets of leaf, they're like this far apart. And when you see that happens, it most of the times it's because it's lacking light. There are certain varieties that just naturally grow that way. So you need direct sun to have the plants grow strong, sturdy, and not stretchy and long, and then it may fall over. Number 12, how long does it take for pepper seeds to sprout? I answer this many times. If you have fresh seeds that you collected from the previous season, usually in the right condition, 5 to 7 days, up to 10 days. If you buy seeds from online, you don't know how long they had the seeds. It could be a year, it could be 2 years. And in that case, 2 weeks, you know, up to 4 weeks. I've had seeds that started after 4 weeks. I mean, I had a few seeds that started already, and the plant were like, you know, had big leaves. And then the other seeds sprouted in like this small. I was like, wow, what, it took forever. But yeah, sometimes it would take a month to sprout. So if your seeds takes longer than 3 weeks, trash it. Just trash it, start over. Those are just, you know, you don't have time to wait for it. It should start between 7 to 10 days, usually. If it's longer than that, you may consider, you know, starting another batch, because you don't want to wait 4 weeks. You know, it's just a waste of time. Okay, number 13. My seedling seems to not be growing. It has been a few months. Why? I get this question asked very often, and most of the time it's because of too much water. So oftentimes when people are new to starting seeds, as soon as the seeds sprouted, they'll spray water, and then the next day they'll spray more water, and the next day they spray more water. They think they may be thinking like, you know, adding more water will really help the plant grow, but the thing is, too much water will prevent the roots from stretching out and growing, because it's drowning in too much water. So allow the soil to dry up a little bit before you water the plant again. That's always the best. Another reason is fertilizing too much too early. If you fertilize too much too early, the roots are gonna burn, and then the plants will just not grow at all. So oftentimes, if you see that your plants are not growing for a few months, you dig it up, you can see that the roots are very little. They're just not growing and stretching out at all. But you can also see that there's just too much moisture in the soil. And so reduce watering, allow the soil to dry. I mean, not dry completely. Soil too dry is also another reason, because it's just too dry. The roots can't move around. It also would dry up and die. So those are the 3 reasons. So water enough thoroughly, and then don't water again until the soil begins to dry up a little bit. Don't fertilize too early, too much. Just watch your plants and monitor it. And then, if it needs feeding, it will tell you that the plant just has little signs that you can read. But usually you don't need to fertilize too early, so try to not do that. And then thirdly is monitor your soil and make sure it's not too dry. If it's too bone dry, then the roots are going to be dried up and then it's not going to grow. So those are the 3 reasons. Number 14, my seed sprouted with the casing on still attached. They call this helmet head. And a lot of the times you can actually prevent this from happening. One is to soak the seeds for like 8 to 12 hours before planting. And what that would do is it will soften up the case, and then you can put it on soil, and now the seed can push the case open easily. So that's one way to prevent it. But another way that causes that is when you place the seed, you didn't place it far enough. Usually it's recommended 1/2 inch under the soil, and then half the soil have some moisture. So what happens that causes the helmet is the seeds begin to pop, and then as soon as it pop, it pushes the casing above the soil. And when it pushes the casing above the soil, the temperature dries up the casing and creates a really hard shell. And now it will have difficulty pushing that shell off because it's just too hard. And if you touch a dry pepper seed, you can tell how hard that is. And so the seedlings are going to have trouble pushing that off, and it's just not going to grow. So make sure that there's moisture in the soil. Put the seeds around 1/2 inch under the soil, and then that would also prevent it. And if you already have seedlings that are like that, trash those if you have multiple other ones, because those are weak seedlings anyway. So use the ones that are good and just trash those. But if that is your only one and you want to keep it, what you can do is you can dig it out of the soil and dunk it in water. And then the water will soften up the shell, and then you can try to cut the shell, cut around, don't cut across, because if you chop off the cartilage, the head, the plant is done. So if you cut around the casing and then try to pry it open, as long as the center is not damaged, it's okay. If you cut part of it off, it's fine as long as the center is not damaged. I've done it so many times, and the seed will survive. So you can do that if that is your only seedlings and you need to save it. Okay, so number 15, is transplanting in soil or container better for pepper plants? Soil is always better because when you put it into soil, it has a lot of space to move around. So when it has space, it can grow well, develop a nice root system, and grow. In my case, sometimes I transplant into containers. It is because in the middle of summer in Texas, the heat is so brutal that some of the super hots will just struggle like crazy. And in that case, I always grow those in containers. That way I can move it around when the heat is just too unbearable for those plants. So soil is always great, but if you have circumstances like me where the heat is just too great, or you live in the desert and you need to move it around into shaded area to help reduce some of the heat for the plants to grow better, then you can do that in containers. So I hope these questions helped you out and give you an early start because we're still very early in the season. And I hope you have a successful season. And feel free to add questions to the video. Just comment, and then maybe I'll add it to the next Q&A in the next update. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.